On today's Locked On Senators, we're going to look at what Shane Pinto's next contract could be. The pending RFA sounds like he wants to get a deal done in time to go to the World Championships.
And the Ottawa Senators have a busy weekend with back-to-back games up against two Metropolitan Division teams.
And the Belleville Sens playoff push continues. It's a crowded one, but they've got a busy schedule coming up. We'll get into all that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 1018 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller back in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where we say hello, thank you for sticking with us. A like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Friday, April 5th, and Pilsy, we haven't seen the Sens since Tuesday, so I'm really looking forward to back-to-back games this weekend.
Yeah, it's been a while since they played on a road trip. You're hoping that they can continue that momentum that they had on the road trip. Maybe some home cooking will get them going here as they finally have a home game up against the New Jersey Devils. It's been a while since they've been at home.
I think that they're going to come out really, really good in front of the home fans in their next home game.
Yeah, definitely. We're not going to see the New Jersey Devils score the fastest two opening goals in their franchise history. That's not going to happen.
And the Sens are going to hear the goal horn at least once, right?
Yep, the power play will continue to click. If, let's say, they had 6 power play opportunities, I'm sure, Ross, they're going to score on probably half of those.
And we know that a team led by Brady Tkachuk isn't going to get bullied, will they?
No.
This team drives me nuts, man.
Ross and I, of course, are coping, trying to get over that 6-0 loss to the Florida Panthers last night. That's one of those games, Ross, where it's a burn the tape game. Now, obviously, everything digital, but I want them to make a copy of this, have a physical tape, and do some sort of burning ritual because they gotta get that one out of their memory.
Man, we got a landfill full of tape. In the 2 games that the Florida Panthers have played in Ottawa since being called soft by Keith Tkachuk when the Sens got the win last March, 11-0 the score. They attack in waves. They attack as a group. They stand up for each other. And I never thought that I would see the day where I was like, you know what? Did the Senators make mistakes allowing guys go who at least brought sandpaper to the game? This team, it's the worst thing you can call a hockey player, but they looked like a soft team out there last night.
Everyone except Brady Tkachuk, in my opinion.
Exactly.
I'm not about to put any of this blame on Brady. He showed up. He had good chances. In the 6-0 game where the Florida Panthers only score 1 power play goal, having an even plus-minus when you play over 21 minutes is pretty impressive. So this one's not on Brady. I'll say that for sure.
Dude, Losterainen's goal, he scored it from Club Bell. Like, he was behind the net, dude.
Yeah, that one's not a good look for Corp.
And you know what? That happened in another game, too. And Jeff Merrick tweeted out, said, you know what? This is starting to happen more and more. What should we call this? This has to have a name because Kirill Marchenko did that to Ilya Sorokin. Again, good goalie. His was actually even more directly behind the net. And he straight up bounced it in off of his head. This wasn't even off of Korpisalo's helmet. There's a reverse angle of the goal that the Panthers posted, and Korpisalo is giving up so much of the top net that if you hit any part of his shoulder, it's going in, which has ended up what was happening. And I just call it bad goaltending. I mean, again, this game, everybody deserves an equal amount of blame, but we know hashtag goalie friendly show. We've been in these situations before where when things pile up and Korpisalo allows 4 more goals for the 19th time 43% of his games this year, he allows 4 or more goals. Ain't going to win with that. Can't win with him.
No,
Can't
definitely.
win with him.
And look, obviously the goalies were not good enough, but I'm not about to take the weight off of the defensive play of this team either. Like the Florida Panthers, it was an absolute clinic on this decor. It was like they were.
How about the one Reinhardt's goal where they literally went past it through the slot twice? Like, oh, it's all good. We're just gonna put it right through the slot. You guys can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
Comedy.
Top to bottom, this was just a game where the Ottawa Senators were not prepared to go up against the Florida Panthers in all facets of the game.
And Jacques is so tired, man.
I don't blame him. Yeah. Boy.
Yeah,
let's move on.
Yeah, for more on last night's game, if you really, really want more.
Well, if you want to hear Martian get pissed off, Martian had one of his all-time post-cast performances as he unfortunately had boots on the ground for that game. So no one gives a better perspective of how bad that game was than Martian did last night.
Yeah, exactly. So that's 3 straight games, boots on the ground post-cast, and they've been getting progressively more depressing throughout.
Well, I don't know. The Jets game was good. The Minnesota game was fine.
Yeah, and this is awful.
But like it's like slowly going down and then off a cliff.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Saturday, the Ottawa Senators will have fan appreciation night. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to go. But one of the things they're doing,
a game after you get booed off the ice,
booed onto the ice for the third period. Yeah, it was 5-0 going into the third. But the Sens are going to do a Tim Stützle bobblehead, which, hey, let's have some fun on today's show. We're going to open up a Brady bobblehead that Pilsy brought me in Winnipeg.
That Martian brought me in Belleville. This bobblehead has traveled.
The case of the traveling bobblehead. Here, let's get a look. And a lot of people probably already have this. If anybody can get us a Tim Stützle bobblehead, we would very much appreciate it. He looks like he's on a plane, hey, for a long night. Hey, you get those pillows? That's actually a pretty sharp bobblehead.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh, it even comes with a stick. There we go. Awesome. Thanks, Pilsy.
Oh, no problem, buddy.
That's fun. Martian. Let's watch it bobble.
Hey, Brady, are the Sens going to win both their games this weekend? Yeah. Oh. Changed his mind.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. We'll have that up in the back. And look, Sens fans sticking with us. We really appreciate it. This has been I know it's a bit of a cliche, but everything that could go wrong went wrong this year.
100%. What went right?
Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing has gone right this year.
Parker Kelly became a bottom 6 contributor. Eric Brandstrom showed he can play forward. Drake Batherson is actually a good answer here. Batherson looked really good for most of the year.
Yeah.
But like we're grasping.
Yeah, not yeah.
I'm
as Brady Chuck said, I'm at a loss for words.
Well, that's tough because you're on a podcast where speaking is the whole thing. All right, I got it from here.
Okay.
Coming up, we will look at Shane Pinto's next contract. Last night at intermission, Post Medias, Bruce Garriock went over who could be representing their teams at the World Championships. He said Tim Stützle likely not. And you know what that makes me think? He's got to be playing hurt. Has to.
You've been on that train for weeks now.
Well, he's got 18 goals, Pilsy.
Yeah.
39 last year.
I don't see, there's no physical indications that he's playing hurt to me.
Well, this always comes out at garbage bag day. So we'll see after the final game. And he did
decline last year playing in the World Championship as well,
True.
Right? So
we'll see about that. But with Shane Pinto, I mean, he's only on pace for 41 games after that bogus suspension. So I understand his point of view. He wants a contract done ASAP. So let's take a look at the Senators cap situation. what a realistic contract is for Shane Pinto, and a whole lot more. Let us know in the comments your thoughts. We'll get ours next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started today at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold from 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is registered broker-dealer. Check it out today, guys. Robinhood.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. You know how much we love the Glebe Central Pub, so much so that it was literally the best part of last night's game was having Sue take you to and from the CTC as she does almost every single game. The last 2 games of the season at home, there will be a Glebe Central Pub shuttle. So you meet right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. And the beauty of it is the vibes are free and you always get to be amongst other Sens fans. Now, where can you find the Glebe Central Pub specifically in the Glebe? Right between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. You can't miss it. It's just beautiful when you walk in. It almost like illuminates, like when you go into the heavens in a TV show and it's just, you're there. The beers are flowing. Taco night. You got wing night. Always something going on at the Glebe Central Pub. Make sure you check them out on their Instagram, Glebe Central Pub. Let them know. You'll find out what's going on at the Glebe Central Pub. So check them out today. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. It's a neighborhood pub serving great food, awesome drinks. They've got the atmosphere, live music, you name it, they got it. The vibes are free at the GCP, and make sure you go to GlebeCentralPub.com and get the tickets for the Sens shuttle bus, $17 round trip. You meet an hour and 15 minutes before the game, and Sue will bring you right back to the rink after. So let them know that Locked On Senator sent you. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pillsy. It's going to be back-to-back game days coming up for the Ottawa Senators. 2 home games left. Fan Appreciation Day is coming tomorrow when the Senators host the New Jersey Devils. Hey, Pillsy, remember we were so young back then when Ottawa beat the New Jersey Devils just last week, a part of their 5-game win streak. But talk about crashing and burning. The Senators have been outscored 9-2 in their last 2 games. And if you're going to stink on the road. Don't stink in front of the great citizens who are out there spending their hard-earned money at the Canadian Tire Center. Play with pride. Play with gumption. Don't get pushed around. The hard-working people of Ottawa just want to see the team stand up for themselves as well. Like after that play early in the game where Parker Kelly's stick accidentally clipped Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Look, you want to fight him? Sure. I'm all good with that part of the game. But to continue to go after him again with no response, like, isn't the whole point of fighting, Pillsy, that it's like, okay, we will, like an eye for an eye, we're good to go?
You would hope so. I don't want to talk about this game anymore, Ross.
Okay, let's talk about Shane Pinto. One of the overall bright spots. Now, again, just like last year, he's probably finding himself a little higher in the lineup than would be considered fair for a guy who missed 41 games to start the season, with Josh Norris going down with injury. Ridley Gregg just is not a top 6 centerman at this point, and that's not an indictment on him. I think that's a perfectly reasonable spot. if he was in the top 6, it would have been like Shane Pinto last year when he was forced into a top 6 role for all but 5 games, it felt like. So Shane Pinto's season so far, he's hit a bit of a rut since his 4-point game. Ironically, has his highest output offensive game of his career. Doesn't have a point since. He's up to 25 points in 34 games. Funny enough, though, Pillsy, with Shane Pinto's season, it's like the opposite of last year. Last year, he had 20 goals, 15 assists. So he had more goals than assists. This year, he's already passed last year's assist total. He has 17 over 15, but he's got only 8 goals. Now, on pace, that's still about 18, 19. So he's right around on pace of what he had last year. But to me, that's showing it's a more complete game for Shane Pinto. And we know that he's a 200-foot player, good in the defensive zone. His face-off numbers, identical to last year, 52%. We know he's a positive impact player there. Where would you start with a negotiation for him? Because I don't think this is going to be a situation where he's squeezing out every single dollar that his agent can get, just based on, I think he's taken a bunch of responsibility for what happened with the suspension as well. And I think he just wants to play hockey, man. He doesn't feel like the kind of guy who wants to get into long drawn out negotiations for back-to-back years.
No, especially with how things went recently, like you mentioned. I feel like, and Ross, maybe you're on the other side of this. I feel like most Sens fans are on the other side of this, and that's fine. I feel like you got to go for a bridge deal if you're the Ottawa Senators and if you're Shane Pinto in this scenario, just because with the way that Josh Norris's availability is uncertain and the amount of guys that the Ottawa Senators have locked up here, I get it. Young players, they're not going to get any cheaper. So you want to lock them up if you believe they have good potential, which Shane Pinto does. And I do believe he has good potential. But you need some sort of flexibility throughout in a hard cap world. I would like to see this one become a bridge deal, personally.
So I'm not on that side, as you could probably shockingly say there. Now, because of the fact he burned a year coming out of college, then he missed almost a full year, right? He's got a much smaller sample size. And I'm saying that he missed a full year with the injury, and then he missed half a year here. Like, availability has been the biggest issue for Pinto. A couple of them out of his control. But what we're looking at now is a guy who will have arbitration rights after next year. Because next year is technically his 5th pro season. Now he played 12 games in 1 year, 5 in another, and he's up to 34 now, but he's still going to have 5 pro seasons. So that to me is where it gets kind of iffy, because once you hit arbitration, then you hit unrestricted free agency, which would be in 2028 for Shane Pinto. You're going to be in a situation where you're paying more per season than you are now. You lock him up now, you know he's going to be a part of the future. I believe the team knows that. They mention him at every turn, that he's a guy who's just such a valuable piece to the puzzle. I get what you're saying, Pillsy. I would try to move one of the other long-term contracts. Obviously, Norris is the big question mark and the guy who plays the same position as him and all that. But Shane Pinto is not the kind of guy who I would be kind of messing around with here, as his value to me. As how many defensive-minded players does Ottawa have in the top 6? Like, he just brings a different element than what they have elsewhere, and I just think it's critical to lock him up. And I think that you might be able to get him at a lower number right now than if he gets to show more, because as I mentioned, it's been games played. That's the only thing that's been holding back his development.
Yeah, but you can't. The issue is you can't have 8 different guys locked up, and then you're like, well, we'll figure out how to move one of these mammoth contracts. Like I feel like that's the problem.
Cap's going up, and maybe this should have been said earlier in the conversation, but as it stands right now, the Ottawa Senators are expected to have, per cap friendly, $11.9 million to play with this summer, and that is with 6 forwards unsigned. Now, one of them being Angus Crookshank, who I think's done enough to earn an extended look. Another one is Yuri Smejkal. So, like, they don't basically, they have 7 one-way contracts signed up front. So they're going to have to fill out the rest of their forward roster. I should say 8, because Norris is down in the in the long-term injured category. And then on D, the only guy who they don't have signed for next year is Eric Brandstrom. So that's before talking about any sort of buyout with the goaltenders. They're not as up to the cap as people are making it seem, because the cap's going up $4 million. And even though Jake Sanderson's getting an $8 million raise, that is pretty much just handing over all the dead cap that they had for Bobby Ryan, for Michael Del Zotto, for Colin White, like
Matt Murray,
and Matt Murray, and Tarasenko's retained salary now. So I think that you look at it overall, and it's not the end of the world if you give Shane Pinto term and a bit higher of an AAV.
In my opinion, Ross, I think you just made an argument that makes sense to bridge him. If the cap is going up, so I think you need to take advantage of an opportunity to give yourself some flexibility here, rather than push yourself into a corner even more. And don't get it twisted. I'm not saying I don't believe in Shane Pinto. I'm not saying I don't want Shane Pinto here for 7-8 years. I'm saying the Ottawa Senators need to give themselves some flexibility. If they were in a situation where they knew Josh Norris was going to be available and he was going to be their second line center throughout the whole contract, there's not going to be injury concerns, cool. Maybe then you lock Shane Pinto up. But at this point, you don't know where Shane Pinto stands, and you can't have three centermen making $8 million, $8 million, and then whatever Pinto's going to be making. And then you have no flexibility up the middle for the next 8 years. Like you're just putting yourself in such a spot. It's going to make things awkward to decide how much Shane Pinto gets, what his role is going to be. I just really think the teams that are successful, they allow themselves to have opportunities. They lock up 3, maybe 4 of their key guys, and then everyone else is in play. And I think that the Ottawa Senators are getting to a point. And Ross, if this team was having success with these players locked up, hell yeah, lock them up. Well, let's keep the good times going. There's been no success with this group of players, not even close to any success. So the idea that we're thinking of having all these guys make this money for all these years doesn't seem like a recipe for success for me. And again, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying I don't believe in these players. I'm not saying they can't get there. I'm just saying if we're looking at the results that we've seen so far, it's not there. And yes, these are all very young players. It's going to take time. And maybe 3 more years into this, they're going to be at that level. That's fine. But I don't know. I think everyone falls in love with the idea of locking up guys long-term just to save $1 million here or there, when if the cap's going up, cap flexibility, in my opinion, is more important than having guys locked up long-term when you're a team that has no success.
On the other side, we'll project our own contracts for Shane Pinto and look ahead to the weekend. That's coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, and LED headlights, and a whole lot more. Whether you like speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need, but at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
All right, Pilsy, I'm going to start this final segment off with a bit of bad news. If the Detroit Red Wings win or lose in overtime or a shootout tonight, or if the Flyers and Capitals win, Or if the Flyers win and the
Okay.
Capitals lose in overtime or a shootout, then the Ottawa Senators will become the 9th team to officially be eliminated from playoff contention.
That's not even bad news, Ross. If anything, for me, that's good news. Give me the needle. End it.
Shout out Dean Brown. Give me the needle.
Doctor, give me the needle.
Yeah, this needle we don't want to come back from. Next year, though, we will miss it this summer. We know it.
We know
Trying
it.
to understand that. But nights like last night, they make it hard. So look, you want a bridge deal. And when I'm saying I want a long-term deal, I think 8 years, 7 years, that's not what I'm looking at. I think a 5 or 6 year deal. 6 would be ideal for me for Shane Pinto. 5 would also be acceptable. We did hear some rumors that before he ended up settling for that 1 year deal, they had conversations about a 5 year deal. That's where I'd be looking. I'd be looking for the AAV to be around where Drake Batherson's is, just a shade under $5 million. So if that isn't the range that they were looking at, then I'd be with you. At a short-term deal, what would you be looking at for the AAV if you're thinking, what, a 2 or 3 year contract, buy up some of those arbitration years?
Yeah. It's really hard to say. It's tough to kind of pinpoint value. And I'm not sure if people take these too seriously, but just for reference point, The Athletic does these player cards. I'm sure everyone's seen these. And on the player card, they have Shane Pinto's market value at $6.5 million. I don't think that's the range where this contract will go. I think it's going to be somewhere between, I don't know, 4 and 5.5 million. I don't think it gets to the $6 million, but again, the term will dictate the ultimate dollar amount. I think I'm with you, Ross. It's got to be somewhere around $5 million. I feel like would be appropriate, but for a shorter term,
million, that's what I'm saying. It can't be that for 2.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm getting there. For a shorter deal, I don't think you're going to get that, and that's why I think you need to have that flexibility, because there's so many other holes that they need to fill in this roster. So give them the short-term deal, keep them at a lower dollar amount, and then when did you say he hits UFA?
2028.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, give him a 3-year deal. Then you've got one more deal at RFA where you have a little bit more leverage, and then you can explore going into another contract when the salary cap is at a much different spot than it is now. I don't know. I just feel like everybody falls in love with the long-term deals, and while it seems like a great idea and you get excited the day it's announced, you're not going to have that flexibility, and this team needs the flexibility.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
How many contracts have they had to mop themselves out of, Ross? Now, obviously, that's Pierre Dorion, and that's different mistakes, but we've fallen for this before, and now everyone's like, what are we going to do with Josh Norris? It's unfortunate. If Josh Norris was healthy all the time, I don't think we'd be concerned about this, but correct me if I'm wrong, Shane Pinto, a centerman that's had shoulder injuries.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
I think having the new management is key too, because otherwise he's looking around. All his boys are getting taken care of, 8-year deals, 8x8s, and all that. But Steve Stais coming in, he can kind of set his own standard. But we know that Stais and Dave Poulin are both very high on Shane Pinto, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
I took so much heat 2020, 2019 during COVID, where I was like, guys, I think Pinto might be as good, if not better, a prospect than Josh Norris. I think I put up a poll, it was 91% to 9. But I was that lone warrior. I was that lone warrior there, fighting the good fight for Shane Pinto. And hopefully it works out, because I get the stress that Shane Pinto must be under, not only seeing everybody else get taken care of last summer, and then I know it ended up being the suspension, but before that, he didn't know there was an investigation until September. He thought they just kind of left him to the side. Brandy got his $2 million. JBD, first day of free agency, got a one-way deal. Guys were getting their contracts taken care of, and Shane Pinto was kind of left on the sidelines after a 20-goal season. So I think for Shane Pinto and the team, I'm just hoping that it all works out. And we've heard even Shane Pinto on a podcast, North Dakota podcast, where he was saying, look, Stais is the real deal. So hopefully they can work something out. Shane Pinto can be a Senator for a long time. Not many guys can make number 57 look good, but Shane Pinto's out there doing it, setting a career high in assists already this season. And if you look at points per game, he's basically doubled. Last year, he was 0.43. He's up to 0.74. That's 3/4 of a point per game for 23-year-old Shane Pinto. Won't be 24 until next November. So let us know in the comments. Good conversation, good debate there on Shane Pinto's next contract. I'm going to put a projection on it. I say he signs before May 1st, Pilsy. I do think that I do think that he needs a contract before going to the World Championships. I understand you can buy insurance otherwise. That's a risky hill to go. You never see guys go without contracts. So I think, look, he wants to be there. I'm not saying he was going to put his name in there for the Olympics or the World Cup. We know the World Championship rosters are probably going to be stronger this year because guys are going to be told, and Brady Tkachuk's an example Bruce Garriock brought up. Look, he's never played in the World Championships before. Maybe with his family situation and his wife being pregnant, maybe that's something that doesn't happen. But if he wants to play on the Olympic team or the World Cup team coming up in the Four Nations next year, that's going to be a chip that the Team USA, Team Canada management staffs use and be like, hey, you want us to help you out when it really matters? Come over, play in the World Championships. And I think Shane Pinto is a guy who, he just wants to play hockey too. So let's hope that a contract gets done before that. Pilsy, this weekend, what are you hoping to see? Fan appreciation night. Look, not a must-win game, but it's a must-perform better than you did last game so that the good-paying fan of Ottawa can go out and see a good product.
Yeah, we're setting the bar so low. It's not even a bar. It's not even a bar above the ground. It's just a line painted in the parking lot that they just have to not trip over. Yeah. Tim Stutzla bobblehead night, so hopefully Timmy has a good night.
Please get us 2.
Yes, please. We'd love to add to the bobblehead collection. Look, these are 2 teams. The New Jersey Devils are 1 spot ahead of the Ottawa Senators in the standings, and then the Washington Capitals are fighting for their playoff lives here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team, the Sens, stack up against these 2 teams, especially in a back-to-back manner when you just had to play both your goalies in one game because they both stunk. I think they got to put most of their energy into tomorrow's game, though, at home. Like, really, the game up against the Capitals on the road, whatever, who cares? But after having a 6-0 loss at home and it's fan appreciation up against the Devils, you got to really have a good showing. Like, not even just a better showing, Ross, but this has to be an exceedingly better performance here.
So last time I'm going to say it, and if it doesn't happen, I'm out on it for the rest of the year. 2 goals for Tim Stutzla.
On his bobblehead night? Yeah, let's do it.
I have to.
Yeah.
If this guy doesn't get to 20 goals, it's going to be tough. So
especially as the lead point getter on this team, not even getting 20 goals. Yikes.
Big time. And Brady, 3 goals away from setting a new career high for him. So that's one of the good news. Hey, another piece of good news. Every team gets a nominee, but shout out to Claude Giroux. He's been chosen, and it's chosen by the Professional Writers Hockey Association in each city. Claude Giroux will be the Sens Masterton Award winner. Look, it's not the heights of Craig Anderson coming back from when his wife had cancer and being there for her, or it's not the same as Bobby Ryan coming back from his rehab and scoring a hat trick, and that perseverance, dedication to the game, sportsmanship. That's what the Masterton is all about. Craig Anderson winning the award back in, I believe, 2017. But a very honorable choice for the Ottawa Senators this year. Claude Giroux has not missed a game since signing with the Ottawa Senators. He's been nothing short of exceptional, both on the ice and in the community, in the locker room. I can only imagine the leadership that he brings, the qualities there. And just go back and check out our interview from last summer with Tony Greco talking about just the dedication, what he brings every single day to his program and making sure that he's at the best of his ability. So stick taps are in order for Claude Giroux. I can't believe he signed in Ottawa, and I'm happy he did.
Yeah, thank goodness. Ian Mendez wrote an article in The Athletic about it, and he talked about Tony Greco. And in the offseason, Giroux was training with Jack Quinn, Buffalo Sabres prospect, and Quinn had I forget what the exercise was. Some exercise he had a better score in, and Giroux went to Tony after and was like, "Hey, did Jack just beat me in that score?" And he's like, "Yeah, he did." And then Giroux was apparently pissed and put an extra effort in next time. So this is a guy that there's a couple logs on the fire left, and he's looking to keep things going here. And when he was kind of told he got the Masterton, he's like, "That's great, but I'm not that happy with that. Like, there's so much more work to do here."
Well, I'm excited for the Claude Giroux Revenge Tour next season for Ottawa. Now, the season is all but over for the Sens, but in Belleville, they are fighting for their playoff lives. And Pilsy, they woke up in last place in the division this morning. Now, they've been inactive all week, but my goodness. They also have games in hand. Should start with that, but
it's a bad visual.
Biggest weekend of the season. And it's not even close. Belleville they're 2 points out of the last playoff spot, and they have 2 games in hand on Laval, right? So it's not over, but my goodness. This weekend, they play one of the worst teams in the league, Springfield, at home. And then they play the top team in their division, Syracuse. This is going to be the most important weekend, and it starts a very busy stretch. The 8 games that are remaining are in the last 3 weeks. They play Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday. That's 9 games. You get the point. I think it ends on a Friday, but they are playing every other day. Like, the Wednesday games throw everything off, and it's going to be busy for them down the stretch, and they need to win. And not only that, but they're getting gutted. No Smakal, no Crookshank. But they do have a secret weapon. Rourke Chartier has been reassigned to Belleville. So he's a lead in the AHL. He really is.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big get for them this weekend. And we'll be watching those games and hoping that Belleville can get a home playoff game where they're not facing elimination right off the bat.
Ross, I would argue, though, that last weekend was a bigger weekend than this one. Because if the Ottawa Senators...
They got the split.
Yeah, but if the Ottawa Senators win both those games...
Belleville.
Belleville. Ottawa Senators winning games. What am I talking about? If the Belleville Senators win both those games, they're in the position that Laval's in with 70 points, and Laval is where Belleville is at the bottom of the standings. So Springfield, not a division rival, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect them. And then Syracuse is in first place in this division. So like you're not catching them. You're not jumping them by beating them. So it's too bad they only got the split last weekend. But yeah, moving forward, obviously you want to beat Springfield, but it's the division games that are heightened to the ultimate level here, as Belleville cannot, like, if Belleville, Ross, not only misses the playoffs, but ends up last in the division again.
Brutal.
I don't know.
Now Laval has the same opponents, but flipped. They play Syracuse on Friday and Springfield on Saturday. So
okay, interesting.
So yeah, let's see how it all plays out. Pilsy, any final thoughts heading into the weekend? We will have the postcast for you after both Ottawa Senators games. So we'll talk to you Saturday evening, and Sunday it is a 6:00 Eastern start, 7:00 tomorrow night, Hockey Night in Canada. Pilsy, final thoughts.
Final thoughts for me and Ross. I'm not sure it even really matters, but maybe we can have a quick discussion on this. How do you set the goalies for this weekend? Like, who starts tomorrow?
You, and I start Saturday. Or I start Friday or Sunday.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. But like we said, I'm hoping that Korpisalo plays 6 of 8. So now it's 5 of 7 because he started last game. Both goalies played last game.
That's what I mean. So like where I feel like you start Forsey tomorrow. Well, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
I just hope they can stop the puck. 19 times they've allowed a goal in the first 2 shots.
Yeah, that's so insane. Like,
I need it to be 20 just so we can say a quarter of the games. 1 out of every 4 games, they're down 1-0 on the first 2 shots.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
It's tough.
Is that the craziest stat you've ever seen? Oh, yes. That's Brady Bobblehead saying yes. All right. So let us know who you want to play goalie, or if it does not even matter. Look, it sucks that we're we're having to mop up a 6-0 loss. We'll have lots of great content for you this summer. The Frozen Four is this weekend. No Sens prospects. Shocker. But maybe a couple future ones. Like Macklin Celebrini or others. Draft coverage coming soon here. Locked On Senators. That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. We'll talk to you tomorrow in the postcast. Thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts for listening to the show. Have a great start to your weekend. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.